flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everyone could please remain standing for a moment of silence for our troops, both here and far, working tirelessly to keep us safe. Thank you. Wendy, do you mind doing a roll call? Get the recording going first.
Mr. Bontempo?
Here.
Mr. Vitale?
Here.
Mr. Nicholas?
Here.
Dr. Pascucci?
Here.
Mayor Hines?
Yes. Legal?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. We're going to dispense with the regular agenda and move ahead to item number 12. To open item number 12, I'll just make a brief statement. As you are aware, under New Jersey law, the Township Committee is responsible for overseeing the affairs of the Township. The Township Committee is therefore statutorily authorized to investigate any activity of the municipality. It is further authorized by law to administer oaths and examine witnesses, as well as issue subpoenas for testimony or documents on matters within its jurisdiction. At the August 13th, 2019 Township Committee meeting, the Township Committee adopted a motion to, among other things, schedule a special meeting for September 12th, 2019, and to enter into investigatory status to review certain activities of the municipality and to potentially compel testimony based upon discussions in executive session. On September 3rd, 2019, the Township Committee met in executive session and requested the sworn testimony of 3 individuals. Mr. Victor Stevens, the Township Director of Infrastructure, Mr. Francis Mullen, the Holmdel Township Engineer of T&M Associates, and Ms. Donna Vieira, the Township's former Administrator. At its September 12, 2019 special meeting, the Township Committee entered into an investigatory status and heard testimony from Mr. Stevens and Mr. Mullen. Because Ms. Vieira was unavailable to attend that meeting, her testimony was carried and a special meeting was scheduled for yesterday, September 23rd, 2019. Due to unavailability of her counsel, the parties agreed and her testimony was carried to this evening, September 24th, 2019. The Township Committee may now continue its investigation by hearing the testimony of Ms. Vieira, who is present this evening in response to the Township subpoena. And if acceptable to the committee, I would recommend adoption of this resolution to enter into an investigatory hearing, after which the governing body may proceed with the hearing. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer them.
I'll move. Second. Roll call. Just all in favor? Aye. So.
Okay, go ahead.
So we picked from a hat on the order. It's going to be Committeeman Nicholas, followed by Committeeman Bontempo, followed by Deputy Mayor Nicholas, followed by Committeeman Bontempo, followed by Committeeman Pascucci, followed by Committeeman Critelli, followed by myself. I am going to start with a statement, however, in hopes that we keep the night moving along. Over the past few months, I've patiently listened to accusations, endured personal attacks, and seen good employees become fearful due to the actions of this committee. It's my time to set the record straight. What happened? It should come as no surprise to anyone in this room, for that matter in Holmdel, that it's been my goal and vision for 10 years to improve the recreational fields in Holmdel. Certainly not newsworthy. In the beginning of this year, I had conversations with 3 out of the 4 committeemen, commissioners, leaders of all sports organizations with regards to a multi-purpose field at the swim club. All were in favor of considering this property, and why wouldn't it be considered? It's used 2 months out of the year, has the infrastructure, parking, lights, and currently stands as an eyesore and safety risk. The pool club was already included in the scope of the bonding for the recreational improvements. I sat personally with 3 commissioners of lacrosse and Deputy Mayor Mike Nicholas to discuss this very project. All were on board. What changed? In the spring, Mr. Nicholas was removed from the Republican line as my running mate. When I accepted the county nomination, personal vendetta ensued and I've been attacked since then. Up until that point, I believed that both Mike Nicholas and Rocco Pascucci were in full support of my vision and plan for recreation. This has become purely political. The facts. Yes, I asked Donna to look into the feasibility of a multi-purpose turf field at the pool club to be used by many different sports organizations, including lacrosse and football. I never authorized anyone to spend any money. Not only did I not authorize any money to be spent, I have no legal ability to do so. We have a system of government in which we have a consensus, 3 votes. A resolution needs to be passed to authorize anything over $3,500. The administrator and engineer are certainly aware of this. It is irrelevant what agenda is on, it still needs to be approved. I have no personal agenda here, no personal benefits of any projects. My children have aged out from benefiting from the field projects. It was never personal. I've read that I've owned a sports team, I own a soccer team, I run profitable tournaments, all complete fake news. Let me be clear, I've never made one nickel, not one nickel, from training, coaching, running any soccer game or tournament or anything to do with soccer. I have volunteered for 15 years in this town. Coached soccer, football, basketball. If I knew anything about lacrosse, I'd give it a shot for free. I have nothing to do with sports except trying to improve the facilities in this town. I've been very vocal about my vision to Holmdel improve the politics, fields, roads, and even theater. This should come as a shock to no one. As I sit and I see Donna, I find it troubling that all the coverage seems to be negative. I think some of it should be just a little bit of news covering the positive. She led the charge for an HSA health insurance plan that this year alone will save us $700,000. High deductible HSA plan. She personally oversaw the county program for paving. We spend almost $2 million a year, saving 20%. $10 million was spent in the last 5 years. That's $2 million in savings. And most importantly, I think of the time that we spent with Moody's. We're one of 19 towns AAA rated, 2 in Monmouth County. We borrow $3, $5, $8 million. Every single year we're going to get the lowest interest rates. Thousands of dollars that we'll save. What we have accomplished are legal fees in excess of $30,000 to outside counsel and another nearly $30,000 to in-house counsel since this process has started. It's irresponsible, it's reckless, and most importantly, it's all political. The morale, I believe, is at an all-time low because we're choosing to play politics. In closing, despite all this political nonsense, I continue to move forward to get the firehouse project completed, roads taken care of, and other business of the township done, as I've been elected to serve and not to waste taxpayers' time. I'm here and continue to be here because I love this town, and I'll continue hard to work for all residents. Thank you.
Mr. Combs,
Do you want to proceed with introducing?
Donna's going to get sworn in?
Sure.
Okay.
Donna, please raise your right hand and place your left hand on the Bible and state your full name for the record.
Donna Vieira.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Donna, thank you for coming here this evening. Your cooperation in this investigation does not go unrecognized or unnoticed. We appreciate your willingness to testify under oath. We've had some conflicting statements by members of this committee on what has transpired in the last few months. And I want to understand from your perspective what happened. So before I begin, I just want to, you've been recognized by your peers, Monmouth County and the state, for your work as an administrator. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Deputy Mayor Nicholas, we had an agreement with the township attorney that Ms. Vieira would start this evening with her statement.
Oh.
Would you object to that, sir?
I will, of course not. No, of course, go ahead, please, go ahead.
Thank
I
you.
apologize for omitting that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. For those of you who know me, you are aware that I'm not one to boast about my accomplishments, successes, and prefer to stay behind the scenes. Unfortunately, over the past several months, my character and integrity have come into question. I have become a pawn in a political fight. Excuse me. The baseless allegations and accusations have caused a severe amount of anguish to myself and my family. It is incomprehensible that members of the media have allowed themselves to be used to foster these agendas. To say that I am devastated by these events is an understatement. As such, I sit here tonight and I have no choice but to address these painful and hurtful accusations. And by doing so, I must do the one thing I dislike the most, boast about myself. In 1993, I began my career in the public sector as an employee of Lawrence Township. For over 25 years, I've had the privilege to work for various municipalities throughout the state. During my career, I've been blessed to have worked with professionals, educators, politicians, and most importantly, municipal employees who have and continue to support and mentor me. I am a proud graduate of the Rutgers University School of Public Affairs and Administration, where I was conferred with a Master's in Public Administration. Additionally, I applied to and was accepted into the highly competitive Harvard University Kennedy School Senior Executives in State and Local Government program. It was an honor and life-changing experience to spend time with such a diverse and talented group of government professionals from around the world. Throughout my career, my work ethic and integrity were never, ever questioned. I've never been disciplined, let alone suspended for any reason. I have received numerous awards and accolades throughout my career for my work as a government professional, as well as my volunteer activities. Not once during my tenure with Holmdel, up until this personal assault on my character, did I receive any negative performance evaluations. I was given a contract extension and was also praised by the governing body for my recognition from the New Jersey Municipal Management Association as Manager of the Year. Ironically, Committeeman Pascucci said I was the best manager Holmdel had ever had. Again, I would not wish this experience on my worst enemy. The pain and suffering that the constant barrage of false accusations that have been fed to the press and placed on social media have been devastating to myself and my family. I never once used the press to defend or refute these allegations, as I would advise against doing so by my attorneys. It is unfathomable that the press can be used to facilitate agendas and do not have the responsibility or moral compass to delineate fact from fiction. I applaud the media outlets, although few, that have only reported the facts and have not sunk into the depths of tabloid journalism. Having said that, I will now make a statement regarding the turf field project. On February 22nd of 2019, Mayor Hines requested that I obtain a cost estimate to construct a turf field at the swim club on the site of the old tennis courts. He indicated that he had discussed this with members of the governing body, and everyone was in favor, with the exception of Committeeman Bontempo. Mayor Hines emphasized to me the urgency of the turf field project, as it would provide a facility for the football team during the construction of the facilities at the high school, and as such, the field had to be completed by August. I spoke with Victor Stevens and authorized him to obtain quotes for the project, as he had done for several projects in the past. The purpose of obtaining quotes was to present the turf field project to the Township Committee at a public meeting, so the committee would have as much information as possible for its discussion and vote. What I did not do was authorize T&M Associates to do Mr. Stevens' work for him. Mayor Hines conveyed to Mr. Stevens and myself the size of the field he was requesting. Mr. Stevens then worked with vendors and also T&M to compile the project estimate. T&M had already previously designed several turf fields over the past few years. They already had several field designs that could be efficiently adapted to the swim club site. It was requested that T&M conduct a survey of the site to see if the field size that the mayor had requested could fit on the swim club property. On April 2nd, 2019, Fran Mullen sent me an email with a project cost estimate for the turf project if the committee chose to go out to public bid, which included the preparation of an RFP. Embedded in that quote was a not-to-exceed amount of $56,130 for T&M's engineering fee, which T&M proposed to bill under the general engineering contract with the town. On Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019, the clerk circulated a draft agenda for the April 9th Township Committee meeting to the mayor, township attorney, administrator, CFO, purchasing agent, and other staff. The turf field project was listed on that agenda, and T&M was scheduled to present the project to the committee and the public. The township attorney contacted me with several questions regarding the documentation for the project. And over the next few days, Mr. Collins worked with Mr. Stevens, the purchasing agent, the CFO, and myself to confirm that all documentation was in order. On Friday, April 5th, the clerk sent the draft agenda to all governing body members for review. The agenda included the turf field project and a copy of the cooperative purchasing resolution number 2019-130 authorizing the project and was included amongst the other resolutions pertaining to township business. Any requests for changes were sent to the clerk, and the final agenda was posted on Monday, April 8th. On the evening of April 9th, the Township Committee failed to achieve a quorum, and the meeting was canceled. The Township Committee never voted on the turf field resolution, and the project never moved forward. It is not correct to say I hid anything from the Township Committee, ever. It is not simply possible to allege that placing an item on a published agenda can be part of hiding anything. T&M's submission was merely a proposal to be included in the overall quote for the turf field project. At no time did I ever authorize T&M to invoice the township for its preliminary work with Mr. Stevens. T&M was working with Mr. Stevens as our township engineer to assist him with obtaining quotes from the vendors. T&M was not authorized to do Mr. Stevens' work for him. As there were already a variety of field designs to choose from, there was no design element needed, just a survey to see if in fact the field could fit in this specific location. The proposal that was sent to me by the governing body was never approved. Public purchasing law requires the committee approve the turf field project by resolution. I wish to address particular statements made by Committeeman Pascucci, alleging that I advised Ed Broberg to work on this project. The truth is, I have not spoken with Ed Broberg for over a year. It was my understanding that he retired from T&M. If he was involved with the turf project, I was unaware of any such involvement, and I never once had a conversation with him regarding this project. In response to Committeeman Pascucci's statement that I hid the turf field project from the Township Committee, I'm not sure how that is possible. It was my understanding that he had already been informed of the project by the mayor, and was clearly listed on the agenda by April 5th, the Friday prior to the meeting. Any questions could have been raised with me prior to that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. I appreciate you coming again. Again, your being here doesn't go unnoticed or unrecognized, and we sincerely appreciate you taking the time to be here and clear up some misinformation. I appreciate it. But before I begin, have you been in contact with any committee members via phone in the last 30 days, via phone, text, or email?
Yes,
You have. Oh, can you tell us who?
I've spoken to several township employees.
Any? I'm not township employees. I'm talking about committee members.
Yes,
You have. Can you tell us who?
yes. Eric Hines and Tom Critelli.
Okay. Thank you. When did you start working at Holmdel? What year was that?
2016. I really don't remember the year, to be honest. Probably before that. I don't know.
You don't recall?
I was
the
here
year?
for about 6 years. I don't recall, Mike.
Okay. So before. So it was before. Okay. Okay. And help me, help the audience, help everybody understand what your role is or was as an administrator. What were your daily responsibilities?
I oversaw the management and operations of the township.
Okay. On a day-to-day basis?
Yes.
Okay. Sound like, I'm sorry. So,
I think it might be feedback.
yeah, maybe shut that, Bill, just shut that microphone. Yeah,
On the bottom, Bill. If you want to hand it to me, I can shut it off.
thank you.
Gotta push it here, give me.
It's off? Okay, great, thank you. Donna, could you just take us through how a township committee meeting agenda is prepared? How does that operate? How does that work?
So we, all the items for the agenda are sent to the clerk throughout the weeks before the meeting. There's deadlines that certain things need to get to her. I don't remember it off the top of my head. I had a standing meeting with the clerk and the CFO every Monday, which we would review the information for the agenda. The agenda, when it was the week of a meeting, we would go over it on Monday morning. and then-
Who are the people involved?
So department heads would send information to Wendy to put on the agenda,
Okay,
and we would go over it on Monday, what was on the agenda. So
Okay.
items that were placed on the agenda would be discussed. And then Wednesday, Wendy would send a draft to myself, the attorney, purchasing agent, CFO, and any other staff members that were relevant to the agenda, if there was something specific to them. And then a draft was then sent Friday to the committee members, and then it was posted Monday for the public.
so a draft was sent to the committee members on the
On
Friday?
Fridays is when they would be sent. I think they were,
So how would an item get on the agenda, just for fun? How would that happen? So if there was something to be, if there was an initiative, if there was a project, how would that project, who would be responsible for putting that item on the agenda?
so the department heads that had items to be placed on, they would be placed, for example, for the recreation department. If Bob Ward needed to get a trailer for the Harvest Fest, and that was something he would put that on to be adopted. It was department heads would send to Wendy what they needed.
And I recall that it was, you mostly communicated daily with the mayor on agenda items, is that true?
Yeah, I would meet with the mayor on Tuesdays. He would come in on Tuesdays and we would go over everything, not just agendas, just general township business.
General Township, so
Yeah.
who would be, so then would it be correct in saying that the mayor and you and the clerk and the CFO would be responsible for setting the agenda?
I wouldn't say we said it, we all were participative in putting the information on. The mayor, I think the mayor statutorily has the right to put stuff on the agenda, so that's his purview. But, you know, it wasn't like everyone had their marching orders, if there was something that got on the agenda, it got put on the agenda. There was really no right way to do it.
Do you recall when you first became aware of the turf field project at the pool club?
Yes, I'm just going back to my notes because I have a horrible memory. So it was early in February, February 22nd of 2019.
Okay. And then on February 12th, we passed a $2.5 million bond ordinance for recreational improvements for HYAA. Is that correct?
I don't
Remember that?
recall when that
You
was
remember
done. I know it was.
It was in early February, but there was a long list a laundry list of items that we had approved,
Yes.
preliminary approved for HYAA, Parks and Recreation.
I recall, yes,
You recall that?
absolutely, yes.
Okay. And there was for girls lacrosse, girls softball at Cross Farms. There's a whole laundry
Yep.
list of issues.
Lacrosse,
Right.
yeah.
Is it true that once we pass that bond ordinance, is it that's not necessarily mean that we have the authority to spend that money?
Deputy Mayor,
Yes.
we had an agreement with the township attorney that the scope of the investigative subpoena concerned the T&M invoice and the turf field, and I am concerned that we're going
I'm getting there.
a bit too far.
I think the deputy mayor is heading towards that. I'll remind him to ask questions that are regarding past facts.
Thank
Right, I just want to establish that once we pass the bond ordinance, it doesn't necessarily mean we have the authority to spend that money. I just want to make that clear. I just want to make, so we're all on the same page. That's all.
So, okay, so once a bond ordinance has been approved, you have the ability to start spending that money.
We do have the ability to
Yes.
spend money?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you were not aware of any resolutions on any agenda items for money to be spent prior to the April 9th meeting? Would that be true?
I'm not understanding your question.
Was there anything on the meetings in March or April, mainly March, that we approved any resolutions to spend money for recreation?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? That's okay. That's, if you don't recall, that's okay. That's okay. Was it your decision to cancel the executive sessions in February, March, and April?
I have no involvement.
Sorry. Try this one. The buzzing stopped.
Okay, thanks, Lindy. I have no participation in meetings. That's between the clerk and the mayor. I'm not involved in that at all.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you. There appears to be a significant amount of emails, phone calls, there were meetings in the weeks leading up to the April 9th meeting about the turf field project. Who on the governing body that you can recall was aware of that?
If you could be specific, I don't know. I mean, I have a copy of the emails that you all have, and I was copied on a lot of the meetings. I didn't participate.
You didn't participate in those meetings?
No, it was mainly Victor and the vendors and T&M, so I can't really say. I was aware of the meetings, I did not participate in them.
Okay, no problem. Bonnie Hurd, may she rest in peace.
Yes.
Sent you a draft engineer's report on March 28th.
Yes.
Do you recall if that was sent to the township committee?
Let me look at it. So just for some background, Bonnie and Fran would send Victor and I draft engineering reports, not every month, maybe every other month. They would be draft, all four of us would meet to go over them to make sure that the items on there were up to date. Some things had been taken off. And then we would meet, and then I would distribute it to the governing body. So
Was that distributed to the governing body?
So the one from March, I have to find it here. I don't recall ever having a conversation about that with Fran and Bonnie and Victor, so I would think it probably wasn't, since it was still in draft form. Yeah, because I think Fran went on vacation in the middle of April, and then everything else happened.
No,
so.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Our former public information official sent an email with the subject titled Parks Improvement. And in that email it says the township will install a new multi-sport turf facility in lieu of improvement efforts previously planned. Do you recall who made that decision?
Who made the decision to do the press release?
Well, who made the decision to do the multi-sport turf facility in lieu of improvements that were previously planned?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
You don't? Okay. Okay, no worries. In one of the emails that we received, you questioned the costs of this project on April 2nd, $2.4 million. Do you remember what your response was?
I have it right in front of me. I put 2.4 million question mark, question mark, question mark.
Ava, but what was your response? What was your
That was my
how did you
response.
feel about that?
How did I feel? I thought it was a lot of money for a turf field. That's why I sent that.
Okay. And this was put on the bills this was put on the bills payable over $3,500. The turf field was placed at the bottom, and there's an email that says rearrange the order of the bills payable. Did that make you feel uncomfortable, or was there a specific reason for that?
I believe, and I know there's an email in here that I read.
Do you know the date of that, sir, so we could locate?
I believe it was the first week of April. I could look it up. It was.
Yeah, so normally if I were to rearrange something on an agenda, it would be because I anticipated discussion on it.
It was the. Hold on.
And I believe that was the consent.
April 3rd, I believe.
Okay. So if there was going to be discussion on it, we would move it to the bottom to allow to get the other business done and to have that there for a discussion. But I don't recall specifically.
Okay. Do you recall the township committee passing any resolutions authorizing T&M payment for this specific project?
No.
No. Okay. I noticed in some of these emails that another committeeman had concerns about the scope of the work that was being planned. And you expressed some doubts in that email, saying nothing was being stripped from the plans. You were just trying to figure out what everybody wanted, if I recall in the email. how did you see the HYA plan moving forward if we were stripping that from HYAA with the turf field?
I have to, there are so many moving parts to that question.
Yeah.
I preferred if we could orient my client to which part and the timing. If we could look at whatever email.
Yes, I'll read it into the record.
Thank you, sir.
Give me one moment. Sorry, we just got a very large email dump, and I'm just trying to, so I'm overwhelmed with all this stuff, so just give me 1 second.
I believe you have numbers on the lower right-hand corner. If
Yes,
you could tell me
it's,
what that number is?
I'll tell you right now. It's Holmdel 000043.
Thank you.
And it reads, this is to one of the committee men. It says, once we have a final version of what the dugouts will look like and the cost, I will forward them to you and Eric. Nothing has been stripped from the plans. We are trying to figure out what everyone wants because it keeps changing. And that's what, I'm just curious, what was changing? What was fluid at that moment? Do you remember?
So once you pass the bond ordinance to start purchasing the dugouts and all that, Victor and Bob Ward met with a lot of representatives from softball to try to understand what it is we were going to purchase. There were a lot of moving parts. And I believe, and I don't recall exactly, that the dugouts were a lot higher than we anticipated, or people were saying they were too high. So I believe this was when Victor met with some of the representatives from softball, and they were not happy with his, with the meeting. And Tom wanted me to look into it, so I wrote back to him that we would, once we knew what we were doing, I would forward the cost on, and then we would see where we were.
Yes, yes. The softball commissioners expressed concerns that softball was being asked to pay for the improvements that
Yeah, I don't recall the specifics of
Yeah,
that.
it's in the email there. For the improvements after they were promised, the town would pay for those improvements. Did that concern you?
It concerned me that we didn't know what we were supposed to do. We had no direction. So staff was told separate things from certain individuals, whether they be committeemen or members of HYAA. We weren't all on the same page, and Bob and Victor had been meeting with representatives quite frequently to try to get the understanding of what it is we needed to do. So my concern was that we didn't know what we wanted to do, and there was urgency to get all this done, but we couldn't move forward without knowing exactly what it is we wanted to do.
Thank you. And then on Friday, April 5th at 10:48 a.m., you and I had a brief conversation. I called you and I asked if there was anything on the agenda, anything exciting, and you replied, no, just a bunch of police ordinances. And my question to you, Donna, is were you directed to not inform me about this project?
Absolutely not. And also, Mike, I have that email here because it was given to me, and my memory is not what it used to be. So I'm back through my calendar, because I would calendar every time I had a conversation. And on this date, I had a meeting with a resident, with Karen Strickland.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I left for an early lunch because I had a doctor appointment. So if you and I would have spoken, it would have been on my cell phone.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been.
We had a 3-minute conversation. It was a very short conversation.
And Mike, I don't remember, and I would never, ever not.
No, I know. I recall we texted on Thursday, April 4th, and you were on your way to Freehold for an affordable housing unit,
yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
And we spoke briefly for 3 minutes. I just asked if there was anything on the agenda that was...
So on Thursday or
No,
on
it was
Friday?
on Friday. On
So
Friday.
on Friday we spoke again. If you say so, Mike, I don't remember. But in answer to your question, whether it was that day or another day, I would never keep anything from anyone. That's not my role as administrator. I work for all 5 of you.
Do you recall you and I ever having a conversation about a turf field at the pool club?
I don't remember, Mike.
You don't remember. Okay. I have no further questions.
Greg, you're up next. I think, Greg, you're up next.
Is it mine? So my mic? Yeah, I'm getting feedback. Rock, you're on. Push the timer. Give me your mic. Turn it off. I think it's my mic. Better? So, I'm just going to go through kind of the chronology, because a lot of this was news. Turn down the volume. I don't know if there's a volume.
Yeah, don't bring it to it like.
Can you hear me okay? In the back? Okay. So a lot of the emails, when I started getting, the acting administrator, the chief, kind of gave us a lot of information before we met with Victor and Fran Mullin at the last meeting, and you kind of alluded to that. So we went through a lot of emails, probably a couple of thousand pages of, and netted down to, I guess, the 50 or 60 that a package provided. So a lot of this was new to me. I was not copied on emails, nor was I included in the conversation regarding this specific project for the pool club. But we did work together jointly in the summer of 2018, just the year before, passing a resolution and hiring Mazer to do a study for the indoor rec center at the pool club, which we thought was potentially, based on the costing, maybe a good idea for the residents because of the use we needed for multi-purpose indoor and potentially outdoor facility based on some of the projects. So not to be repetitive, this kicked off on February 22nd when you got an email about initiating a turf at the club. Then you send an email probably 5 or 6 days later to Victor to put some numbers together. He came back to you February 28th.
Bullshit, this ain't working. I just stopped.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Again.
We tested them today too, they were functional. I don't know.
You want a handheld? Handheld work here? Or no? Will it work right here?
It seems to be working now. Just stay away from it.
Hey, Chief, I think Mike's got it fixed. We'll see if this works. This
Testing.
Send that over for me. I think he's got it. Good, okay. So then Victor sends an email to you, put together some numbers for the work, the old tennis center, lists items 1 through 12, and comes up with 1.67
Yes.
million. Okay.
Yep.
At that point, we go to item number, email number 4. Good morning, email from you to Fran Mullin, Body Herod, Victor Stevens. Victor, update me on your meeting. Please put this on the tippy top of your list. We'd like to get this started on ASAP. You're referring to the turf at the swim club.
Yes, I am.
And then Fran Mullin says, okay, will do.
Yes.
Is that now initiating T&M to start billing Holmdel
No,
for work?
no. All this was, so since T&M had already designed several turf fields throughout the years, Eric identified what size field he wanted. I don't recall what that was. So what we told T&M to do was to take the size field that Eric had requested and put it over on the map of the tennis courts and plop it in. All they needed to do was a survey to do that. All the other items that you saw in the email from Victor had been working and calling with other vendors. So it was to keep the cost down. We weren't going to use T&M at all for this. We were going to do it through the cooperative purchasing and just keep it in-house as much as we could.
So this was work that Victor could not perform?
Victor could not do the survey.
Okay.
T&M had to come out and do the survey, yes.
T&M
I
did.
did authorize them to do the survey, absolutely.
Okay, and so authorizing them, there was no cost involved to have T&M do the survey for us?
Well, no, they would charge us their time,
Okay.
you know, and that's, whenever we spoke to T&M, they would charge us time. As our engineer, that was like Victor's resource, so, but when we would have them do our road program, they would prepare RFPs and all that, and that's when you would have to do that through your approval. But this is just routine engineering stuff that they did as their responsibility as the engineer.
So it was you to T&M or Victor to T&M giving authority? Who gave T&M authority to do that?
It wasn't really authority, it's part of their day-to-day. They were instructed to do a survey. I don't think I said to Fran, go do a survey, it was probably Victor, but I really don't remember.
Okay. And then document number 5, there's an email from Jason Arzold from T&M, working with Victor, and he's putting the lighting quotes together for us at this time. So is Jason also working at no cost, or is he going to start billing us for putting quotes together for lighting for the field and tennis
So
courts?
Victor was working with Musco. We didn't need T&M to do that for us.
Okay. So Jason was sending emails just to what? What was the purpose of his emails then? Why was he involved, I guess?
I guess Fran assigned him to do, because Fran wasn't, Fran oversaw everything, so Jason was probably the person that was doing this. I'm just reading the email because I really don't remember. Victor had called Musco, and the email says, Vic, as discussed, Musco sports lighting number is correct. So perhaps Victor or someone wanted to make sure that the Musco numbers were right, and T&M said they were. I don't really know that.
Okay. And then those proposed costs, going back on that, from that March 21st email dated number 6, 7, and 8, have this total estimated project cost now at $2.3 million. So from the initial, I guess, costs that were put together for you of 1.67, I guess 3 weeks later, we're up to 2.3 million for the same scope of work, correct?
For the turf field itself, yes.
Yeah. At that point in time, who on the township team was aware of the costing for this project?
I think probably just Eric, because it was still in a conversational, we had it, nothing was finalized, so I think that was the number. And the email that Mike related to, I did send that number because I was shocked it was so high.
Okay. So work's continuing. We go to email number 11, there's March 25th, and then I think you were questioning why do we need water up there?
Yes.
Because there was no water up there. And I think we ran into this the prior summer with
We did.
with the rec, right?
You're
with the rec center.
absolutely correct. There's
I
no
think-
water there.
Yeah, there was no water up there, and the question was, how do we get water up to there? Because there was a thought of potentially, if we did the indoor rec center, maybe renovating the locker rooms in the swim club to use for, obviously for the swim club and also for sports in the off-season when they weren't being used for the teams use, like basketball in the winter time. So same issue we were dealing with from prior on the water. So that was an issue for the turf, and you were just questioning the validity, why I guess why we needed water for the turf.
Correct.
Email number 13, March 13th, meeting summary. So there was a kickoff meeting, looks like T&M is now kind of running this project. A project kicked off, a phone call.
Excuse me, I wouldn't say they were running it. Victor was in charge of the project, and I wouldn't say they were running it, but go ahead.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I'm just,
Yeah.
again, I wasn't involved, so I'm just trying to follow
Mhm.
anything written to show what took place and when and who was doing what. It has a list of responsibilities, what T&M is being tasked with, what Bonnie Hurd was doing, what Victor and Bob Ward were doing. And then, in fact, item 3 on the first page of item 13, Victor Stevens and Bob Ward explained the township desired to use these facilities. The following items were discussed. The township intends to fully construct these facilities using Region 4 Educational Service Center cooperative and state contract purchasing. So I guess that was the plan for the procurement of the actual turf was to use a co-op.
Yes, so rather than have T&M prepare an RFP and go out to bid, it would have been more, we were trying to determine whether or not it would be more cost effective to do the co-op route, and it appeared at that time it was.
Okay. Then he lists the township intends to have these fields ready for use by August 1st, I assume 2019. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm sorry.
And then there's a bunch of items that Victor and Public Works were going to do, I guess to save costs from going to outside, and that lists some of the other people that were involved in the project, talks about some water. Then on item number 19, on March 28th, Bonnie Hurd sends an email to you, copy Fran Mullen, for our discussion, attached a copy of the draft status report. Please let me know when the field is going to be announced and you're ready to issue the status report. When was this, based on March 28th, she's looking for an update on when it's going to be announced to who? To the township committee?
Actually, did you get it?
I'm sorry, we're on 0019?
No, 19, yep.
Oh, the status report is just the engineer's monthly report. That's what she was referring to.
Okay, so, but she says when the field has been announced, who is she announcing it to? Was it the
Oh,
township committee?
after, on the meeting. She wanted to know when it was going to be put on the agenda, the turf field. I believe
Okay.
is what she was relating to, yes.
So that is stating that on the public meeting is when the township committee is going to find out about this project? Is that accurate?
It was when it was going to be placed on the agenda.
So the township committee is going to find out about this project at the public meeting? That's when
It was everyone's understanding that the township committee knew about it already.
She then talks, and sends I guess the engineer status report that Fran does on March 28th. And he lists item 4, an update. Well, I guess there's multiple projects Tina was working on for the town under the direction of either, I guess, yourself or Victor. And item 4 lists the Holmdel Swim synthetic court relocation. She said we're currently preparing construction plans and technical specs, blah, 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 and everything will be completed on or before April 5th. So that was her update to, I guess, just to you, Donna? That only went to you?
This was her draft report.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
To you. Nobody else got that report?
I believe the clerk was copied, although they had Maureen's name on it. It also went to the CFO and also went to Victor.
Okay. And then the at the time, April 1st, Chris Rotolo was a public information officer. This kind of confused me, the statement that was made. Township will begin a series of park recreation projects starting with enhancements to the Holmdel Township Swim Club on Bailey Lane. So this is a press release that he's updating you on, he's sending out to the public on what we're doing at the swim club. In addition to the maintenance and upgrades to the tennis courts already on site, the township will install a new multi-purpose sport facility in lieu of improvement efforts previously planned for Cross Farm Park. These improvements efforts will begin immediately so residents can fully enjoy the facilities when the swim club opens for the 2019 season. So for the turf facility, which started at 1.7 million and now we're up to 3 weeks later about 2.3 million, where, as administrator, where was the funding coming from for this project?
So the funding, we did not have enough to cover the 2.4. That would have been discussed at the meeting.
So on the.
Oh, I'm sorry, let me back up. There was two ways to do it. The 2.4 included going out to RFP in the bid, from what I recall. The 1.6 that Victor had originally proposed in February was using the co-op. So this would have been discussed had we had the meeting to discuss it.
So funding would come out of, so we did some bonding, right, in 2019 for road improvements. We did some for fire. We did 2.5 million for rec, which were the HYAA enhancements. Where was the funding for this turf field coming from?
From that bond ordinance.
From the 2.5?
Yes.
Okay, so the list of improvements were going to be, that we had for HYA, were not going to be done, and this deal was going to take precedence on that. Is that correct?
So it wasn't the staff's decision, it was your decision. That was the proposal that would have been discussed at the meeting. In addition, I believe there was still money in there to do other items. I think and this goes back to the email about the softball. We had to wait to do some work, and again, this wasn't my, Victor was managing all this. So work could not get done earlier in the year. So it was discussed that we could do other work in the spring and then do the rest of the items after the season was over. It was never the intent to not do any of the work that was getting done.
So the project, when it was on the agenda for turf, April 9th, was it? Was on approximately, and the rating, it's in the year, approximately 2.1 million. So that would have used up 90%.
Had you approved it,
Yeah.
or you could have discussed other options. It
Okay.
was for discussion. It
Okay.
wasn't something that, was set in stone.
Yeah. I just wasn't aware that we were going to supersede the commitments that we made to HY. I wasn't aware. I'm not saying you had to tell me, but I wasn't aware that that was even up for discussion at the time.
Yeah, so I wasn't privy to the conversations. It's my understanding that conversations had been held with HYAA and the football, and this is what they had decided to do to move forward. This was their wish. That's why we were doing this.
Okay.
But again, it wasn't my decision, Victor's, Bob Ward's. We just merely gave the information, presented it, put it together for your discussion and vote.
Got it. And then on page number 24, Jason from TNM, looks like he had kind of the bid specs, and he was going to send out the bid specs for people, for the, I guess, the various vendors to provide their quotes based on the schematics or the specifications he had put together, and he had a quick turnaround time so people would get the costing in quickly, and then I guess from that point, decision could be made or the chosen vendor identified to move forward. Is that correct?
Are you asking, or is the question, did you read the email message correctly? Or are you asking?
Yeah, so I'm asking, on April 2nd, Jason from TNM sends out an email saying that he is now soliciting bids for work to be done. Is that correct?
No, this email was from, again, I was just copied on it, but reading it, it appears as though he was confirming, again, Victor had already spoken to these vendors, so Musco was the lighting vendor, I think Halcon was the lighting vendor. It appears as though Jason was just confirming the numbers. You'd have to ask Jason, I don't know.
Okay, no, thank you.
Yeah, I really don't know.
That's fine. They go out for the public bid process, which is fine. As I guess April 2nd, your question mark of Fran sends out projected cost based on the public bid, comes in 2.4, and that's when you questioned it.
Yes.
Said, what's going on? This is what, 50% higher than I guess what you originally anticipated based on the beginning back in just a couple weeks earlier.
Yeah, Victor came up with 1.6, they came up with close to 2.4.
Okay. On April 3rd, I think Barbara reached out, I don't want to be redundant, just questioning, putting the lights, the turf on the agenda. You replied back to her to list the turf last. And then Fran Mullen, now on April 3rd, sends an email to you, to Jason, to his team, to say he spoke to Victor, understood he provided you the final quotes, and that he's now, I guess on April 3rd, providing a list. We suggest a not to exceed fee of $56,130. So now, I guess we're somewhat in the process of this. There's potentially some work that T&M was engaged in already, whether by you or by the team, to help out with the project, and he was assessing that. So at that time, should we then adopt a resolution to approve them?
Absolutely.
Alright.
And had the project been approved, and had you decided to go with the public bid, this would have been part of that,
Okay.
at $56,000.
Okay. The interesting thing is, and I hear exactly what you're